We just say the best.
Ulterior motives.
Our next guest is wrapping up 21 months of duty in the Senate after stepping in to take Vice President Biden's former Senate seat. He's now preparing for his next challenge, replacing Elizabeth Warren as chairman of the Congressional Oversight Panel. Joining us now is Delaware Senator Ted Kaufman, who we love having on. You're in studio. I think you should be a CNBC contributor.
There you go. Okay.
When you finish.
Thank you. If I can be on with you, I'll do it.
I know, and we get along.
Absolutely.
And what I don't understand is that we're going into this election, and I don't know whether you can talk about whether the Democrats retain the House or whatever, or Senate. But let's just go beyond that.
Right.
The acrimony is so thick at this point.
Well, except you know what's really amazing is our relationship. Which is really, that's the relationship I have with Republicans in the Senate. In the Senate itself, people get along. The problem is there are very basic differences of opinion between Democrats and Republicans and where she go.
On important matters like this. And this is what I was going to bring to your attention. The Deficit Commission. Yesterday, that's where I hold it. I mean, the divide is growing. So these are issues that even after the election and after all the talking points are done and people aren't saying shove it.
By the way, the Deficit Commission, we get Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson. We met with them. A bunch of the senators met with them. They really think they're going to be able to come out with something. And I think that will really be a step in the right direction. We got to get together and do something about the deficit. The deficit is absolutely terrible. But it didn't. By the way, but it didn't just happen in the last 2 years. The bulk of the deficit was generated during the ages.
See, now you're going back to your talking points. I'm trying to move forward here.
I'm too. What I'm trying to do.
If you drove it in the ditch line.
No, I did not. I did not. I'm not going to say it. My point is, but we got to figure out where we're going to go forward. And one of the things I've learned from being around this place, I started in 73 as a staffer and stayed there for 22 years, is everything has to be on the table. And that's what Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson are saying. It can't be where parties are writing to this thing saying, well, we can't do it. The Republicans are right. You can't do anything about taxes, and the Democrats are right. You can't do anything about spending. We know how to do this. They did it before. Clinton did it, and the way they did it, and by the way, H.W. Bush. The thing that people don't remember is H.W. Bush got up and said, broke his pace about read my lips, no new taxes, and guess what? And what did pay go? And the deficit started to come down, and then Clinton put in the largest tax increase in history. And the deficit went down even further. We actually had a surplus. But here's the lesson to politicians. H.W. Bush, what happened to him after he broke his pledge and read my lips? He got Buchanan in a primary, and he lost. And what happened to Clinton after he did the largest tax increase in history? 1994, he lost the House and Senate. So everybody's got to get back. We know what the answer is, and it's Democrats and Republicans sitting down together and saying everything's on the table, and we've got to figure out how to do it.
But when you look at it, you know what the answer is, but no one does it. So why not go back to a Graham-Rudman type mechanism? It's a fiscal rule where you guys don't have any choice.
But Stephen, look, the Deus Rex Machina, this mechanical thing, people think somehow you can bring mechanics and make this work. I just don't believe that's the way to do it.
But it did work, right?
No, it didn't. That wasn't the cause. What we did is we put in PAYGO, which required him to, and we did something about taxes.
But you had sequesters that took excess spending off the table, and like it or not, I mean, I was not a big fan of it when it happened either, but we ended up having surpluses
but the surpluses were not Graham-Rudd.
Well, that's a debate.
Let me put it this way. I'm perfectly willing to stipulate that helped. But the big thing that happened was, number one, we did PAYGO. And what PAYGO said is you can't increase spending unless you pay for it. That's what it did, and that's what the Democrats didn't want to do, and the Republicans got them to do, and now the Democrats have reinstated PAYGO. And the other thing we did is we dealt with taxes. You have to deal with revenue. There's a company in the world when it's in trouble doesn't deal with revenue.
I totally agree with you, but you know, Americans don't trust their politicians to fix this big problem. So why not impose rules?
By the way, if Americans don't trust the politicians, this country's in deep, deep trouble, and we're never going to deal with the deficit.
We are in trouble.
Working together, and the reason we're in deep trouble, and we all know it, is because the economy's so bad. And when the economy's bad, we're always in trouble. And what people forget about is this was not just a recession. We almost blew up the whole financial system.
Okay, but Senator, you look at what's being spent on both sides, and you guys can complain about the Chamber of Commerce, and then the Republicans, will complain about the unions, which is it's billions and billions of dollars there. Also, when this is finished, and depending on what happens in the election, you remember when the president was broached with certain ideas, that famous phrase, "We won." It's going to be my way. Now, the Republicans, what if they say after if they take what if they say we won?
President Bush said it when he said, "I have plenty of capital. I'm going to spend it."
Let me just tell you what most Democrats think. They don't think that President used "we won" nearly enough. He reached across the aisle and everything. We had that health care bill that we worked on for 6 months because we were trying to get...
You think reconciliation was an example of that?
Reconciliation. By the way, the Republicans use reconciliation on the tax bill and the rest of it. But my point is, but that's the only way you can get the bill passed in the end. And then you look at the Economic Recovery Act, 1/3 of it had tax cuts in it. Nobody in America knows they got the tax cuts. The tax cuts were in there to help the Republicans. That's what the Republicans wanted as part of the deal. They only about 3 or 4 ended up voting for it. So we got the tax cuts in there. Nobody in America knows. They talk about the stimulus bill, not enough infrastructure. As Republicans, well, we didn't put we put in all the tax cuts. So, and the health care bill, we sat for months while they tried to do it. And Mike Enzi and Chuck Grassley and the Gang of Six and the rest of that. They went through that. We went through the same thing on the Wall Street reform, where first was going to be
we have Republicans come in and say we tried so many times to get in and see the president about health care.
Look, I'm back to
this is more of the same stuff.
I'm back to where you guys were a little earlier in the show, and that is, this should not be about recrimination. Is what we're doing. After the election's over, we sit down and we'll work it out.
How's that going to happen? You're leaving.
Right.
Voinovich, Bai, Dorgan, Blue Dog's in trouble. The front page of the Journal today. McCain's no longer a maverick.
Right.
Anybody who said they had an interest in working together is leaving.
They'll work. Look, by the way, they will work together. The problem, again, this is a representative democracy. Last time I checked, the mass Americans do not want to work together. When you go out there and look at people on the street and what they're saying and what's going on outside of the Senate, people are saying, no, this is our way or the highway. And as I say, we've gone through what the issues are. So what's going to happen is, first off, hopefully the Deficit Commission will do some good. I have a great deal of faith in Erskine Bowles and Senator Alan Simpson, so they can do something, and hopefully we can get the deficit under control, and then everybody starts talking to each other. But the problem here is basically there are fundamental differences and they're accentuated by a really, really lousy economy, and people are out of work and they're mad, and they should be mad, and people are losing their houses, and we got the foreclosure mess. So it's that's really what the problem is here. This is a bad time to be trying to talk about how to solve America's problems, but we have to.
Well, I've seen some things written in recent days that even though the economy is front and center, that a lot of the what's happening in the election goes back to health care. And I know that you said you waited and that reconciliation's been done, but the process itself, where even to get the Democrats in the House to go along with it, all the individual in the Lincoln purchase and
look, when we looked at Medicare Part B.
Yeah.
It went through. There were no Democratic input at all, zero. So it depends. If it takes two sides to work together, and I think in this case that's what we need. We need everybody pulled together, and we need the American people after this election's over to come together and say, "Hey, look, this is really important that our elected representatives work together and get this thing worked out."
Did you see our discussion with Steve about about that House bill with China and whether that will that be taken up by the Senate?
Well, I'll tell you right now, China has put themselves in a position where there are loads of people on both sides of the aisle. There are some things that is bipartisan, and one of the things
that's the only thing that should be bipartisan. Yeah. He's going to scold. Yeah. Do you see? What do you think?
But China,
again, it's totally missing the mark. We have trade deficits, Senator, with 90 countries.
Right.
Are we going to fix the deficits that are bearing down on American workers by going after one country?
No, look, but Stephen, there's a lot more going on with China than just the deficit. There's the support for Iran, the fact how difficult it is to get them to do sanctions about Iran. They're working in Sudan. I mean, they're fighting with their neighbors. They're doing the stuff with Japan and there's all kinds of stuff going on with China. But the thing about China is we have so many issues with China. I mean, I was on the Broadcasting Board of Governors. Right now, the Overseas International Broadcasting, right now China broadcasts all their international radio and TV in the United States unimpinged. They will not allow a single Voice America or Radio for Asia thing to broadcast into China. So there's a whole lot of issues.
There's a lot of issues, Senators, but we're talking here about jobs.
Exactly.
We're talking about currencies. We're talking about the ability of America to come up with a new source of growth to deal with problems bearing down on middle-class workers. Why can't we work on export opportunities to China?
We are, but China won't deal. Jeff Immelt and those guys, they are not, as you said, I did see your little bit of show, and I totally agree with you. They came out of the closet and said, hey, look, guys, we're getting tortured over there. What did Apple say? What did Steve Jobs say about how they're dealt with in China? I deal with a lot of corporate executives. They say in China...
We're getting tortured, but China is our third largest and most rapidly growing export market. Yeah. That sounds like we're getting something from the torture.
Right.
Why can't we continue to push for access into this market, especially if they're going to stimulate their internal consumption?
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But it's just like negotiating with anyone else. There's got to be some give on their side, and there just isn't. American companies have a very hard time.
I'm in China every month. I see plenty of give. We do business in China. We're getting give.
What is Jeff Immelt talking about? Is he some kind of left-wing liberal?
Jeff Immelt has a large, thriving, dynamic business,
and he's happy
in China, and he's a tough negotiator.
He's happy with what he's doing.
He's a tough negotiator.
Anyway, no, I agree with you. China is here to stay. China is going to be a superpower if it's not already. We have to deal with China. But I'll tell you, when you make the list of issues that we have to deal with China on, it is a long, long, long list. And part of it's the currency, part of it's their export, part of the way they treat American companies when they come over there, to the extent they're American companies. All the export. We got big problems with China on the avian flu thing. Remember where they wouldn't report? They don't report what's going on in terms of what's in time in the country.
But part of it also, Senator, is our inclination to scapegoat others because we don't want to address our problems. Why do we have a jobs problem?
Right.
Do we want to really address that, or do we want to blame it on China?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why we have a jobs problem.
There is, but that gets me back to one other thing, Senator, before you leave, that I can ask you. The mounds of regulatory issues that companies are faced with now after healthcare and FinReg.
Right.
Do you think that has hurt job creation, and was it worth it? You don't think it's hurt?
First of all, most of the healthcare regulation you're talking about won't be taking place for years.
No, I know,
that's number one. Number two is
the uncertainty that
the reg reform.
CEOs talk about, the 1099.
Joe, let's go back. How did we get to the point where we have this?
You're not going to say drove it in the ditch again, are you?
No, I'm not saying drive in the ditch. I'm going to say that we did not have any reg reform. We had basically a Securities Exchange Commission that allowed investors to just do whatever they want and corporations to do whatever they want. Remember, where I come from on this thing is that the credibility of our markets is essential. The two things that make this country great are democracy and credibility of our markets. And credibility of our markets take a hit with the dot-com thing. It took a hit with the great financial meltdown. And right now we're dealing with high-frequency trading.
Enron, Madoff, WorldCom, a few other things.
High-frequency trading and what's going on with that. So there's all these issues out there. We need more regulation of the financial industry, and that's what we have to do. Now, my basic thing is I'm opposed to over-regulation. But clearly, coming out of this thing, where you had no regulation, essentially what went on in the markets and what happened with derivatives. I mean, should we not be regulating derivatives?
What about focusing on basically a year on healthcare as we moved higher on the unemployment rate every month?
Yeah, but healthcare is the way, in my opinion, the only way we're going to deal with our deficits is we have to do something about healthcare.
Well,
we have to start the process.
The critics would say that wasn't the main part of the...
Critics can say whatever.
Cover everybody first and worry about costs later.
No, but by the way, this, and it's the Congressional Budget Office, it's Republicans and Democrats, is a nonpartisan, no one's accusing of partisan. It says the base of the health care bill is going to reduce the deficit by $130 billion.
People would say that it's GIGO. You put, depending on what you assume on the way in, garbage in, garbage out.
No, look, you can say what you want about the CBO, but anyway, they say that basically what the health care bill is going to do is reduce the deficit by $130 billion over the next 10 years and then trillions over the next...
People would say that it was what politicians wanted, not necessarily what the country wanted, and now you're reaping the benefit.
No.
How many guys in the House are walking the plank?
I don't think this is about health care. I think this election's about the economy. And the basic problem is what we've learned about the economy is the thing that really drives elections. It's what they say, this economy is stupid. Go back and look at the only two presidents have lost in the last 60 years running for re-election were two presidents. And what else was going on those 2 years? The only two times is the economy was in the ditch. So when the economy's in the ditch, people are upset.
Speaking of which, 2012, Karl Rove the other day said several geological ages will pass before that field settles.
Right.
Do you think it's nowhere near being clear?
Republican?
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you something. One thing I learned in this business is I don't know how Republicans think. I can't tell you how that's going to work out. It seems crazy to me with the number of people they have now and the background. And when you look at their approval ratings, of Newt Gingrich and Sarah Palin. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking at the...
But generic Republican beats the president at this point, so...
Generic Republican always... By the way, the president's numbers I saw on the screen the other day on your show, scrolling, president's approval rating hits low of 44.7, higher than Reagan, Clinton, and Bush at this time. So 2 years into a presidency is not a very nice place to be. So his numbers are down now, but they aren't down as much as... Look at Reagan. His numbers are better than Reagan's was after 2 years. So look, 2 years is an eternity. What's going to happen in 2012 will depend on a whole lot of things. But I'm going to watch with incredible interest as the Republican field sorts itself out, because there are a lot of candidates.
We didn't know that then Senator Obama was going.
Exactly. By the way, and there's some really good Republican candidates out there that nobody ever hears about, and that will be coming to the fore. Just Mitch Daniels in Indiana, and Paltney in Minnesota. So there's a lot of Republican candidates out there. I think that Barack Obama is going to be hard to beat, but we'll find out.
Obama, Biden.
Yeah, Obama, Biden, exactly right.
All right, just checking.
No, that's
part.
By the way.
All right. So am I allowed to offer him a contributor position?
Yes, right here.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the CNBC because you can't just teach all the time.
Hey,
right?
Listen. Anytime I can go on with you guys,
exactly.
It's
all
great.
Right. Senator, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Senator.
When we come back this morning, we'll talk some more politics, currency.